Still Entitled is made possible by you, our wonderful and fabulous listeners, as well as some great advertisers. And we need just a moment of your time this week. In order to find those great advertisers, we need to learn a little bit more about you. So please go to podsurvey.com/untitled and take a quick anonymous survey that'll help us get to know you a little better. And that way we can show advertisers just how great you guys are. Plus, once you've completed the survey, you can choose to enter for a chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card. Terms and conditions do apply. Again, that's podsurvey.com/untitled. Thanks for your help and enjoy the show.
Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. I'm Will.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Kishore.
Well, hello, Kishore.
Hey, Nuke Norm.
I'm in my Will Smith cosplay. We have the same jacket on. I have a Zojirushi in front of me.
Wow, I don't have my Zojirushi. I got a new Zojirushi.
What the heck is a Zojirushi?
That is a Zojirushi.
Oh, that's Tom Sachs loves those
It's
too.
a thermal mug.
Yeah,
It's not a thermos.
I've got one in the Clavius-based lunchbox over there that Tom Sachs built.
I have one for coffee, one for tea, and one that's just for cold water.
Oh, I
Wow.
thought you were going to say casual.
No.
It actually is too good at what it does. It like keeps stuff too hot. It's like 6 hours later, it's like still burning hot.
Nice.
So the secret is to not preheat that. Like, you know, you make a pour over coffee or something, you preheat the mug, so that the coffee doesn't immediately get cold when you want the coffee, you want that to leach
you want a little
heat
bit
from
of
the
thermal
coffee.
transfer
you
at
want
the beginning
to transfer to
take
happen.
the edge off.
This is the first item I bought after watching a tested video. Reviewing an item, yeah.
Oh! Yeah, we're a gateway drug for all sorts of thermal mug aficionados.
I have credit card receipts to prove that.
The Zojirushi is one of those weird companies because I don't know that this is true. Somebody's going to probably correct me, but my headcanon for why they make like rice cookers and thermal mugs and big coffee urns and all sorts of weird stuff. And the only thing I can tell in common with them is that they all have gaskets. Like they have these really fine rubber gaskets.
Right.
So my headcanon for Zojirushi's existence, and I don't want to, I don't think
Is
I
it
want to know if
somewhere
I'm
they've
wrong.
got a gasket specialist that's off the hook?
Well, yeah, sometime in the 50s, there was a gasket company. They were like, we need to round up all the vertical interest around gaskets, and that's what they did. So they like locked down all the Japanese industries that involved gasket making.
Oh my
gaskets.
God. So this strikes me as a really fertile genre of science fiction based on the most trivial aspects of engineering.
It's like
right?
the William
Of like,
Gibson.
what
yeah.
happened? Right. So what it is, it's the natural extension of Guns, Germs, and Steel, right? Which was arguably, along with Salt, one of the earliest books to kind of frame history through the lens of like these trivial things were far more important than you thought. So now we project into the future, and you're like, self-loading gasket technology that's slightly preloaded was advanced by this company who then owned the market, and freshness became totally theirs.
And thus was born Wayland Yutani.
It's almost like
Show the gasket on that thing. It's a good gasket.
All right. Let's keep this gasket chat going.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of science fiction, I just finished
Yes.
Cixin Liu's new book. It's not a new book, Ball Lightning.
It's a new translation, though, right?
It is.
Yeah.
He wrote it back in 0304.
Cixin Liu is the Three Body Problem
Yes.
author, just for context, if you don't remember.
And
so
so he wrote this before the trilogy.
he
I think.
did actually. Frankly, I'm not positive. That's why I was pausing in my head. I think he wrote it while writing the trilogy. I'm not positive.
Wow. How do you do that?
I
How do you
don't
write a
know.
book while you're writing a
Look,
book?
Maybe, well,
Here's the thing. This is ostensibly somewhat of a semi-prequel because it takes place in the same universe as Three Body Problem.
is it like a cultural revolution story as well, or no?
Yes, it involves the Cultural Revolution and Chinese culture, scientific culture deeply. And it's totally mind-blowing and phenomenal. Like, I
Shocking
really
that.
enjoyed it. I read it in 2 days flat. My wife was at the bookstore, and she was like, hey, isn't this the guy you like? This is a book that seems to have just come out. And I'm like, get it for me. And I burned through it last week, and it's fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
And I don't know if you've ever read any accounts of ball lightning. In which, in the middle of a lightning storm, like a ball of what looks like cohesive plasma floats slowly through a room and then turns somebody to ash, right? There's like, ball lightning is weird. A significant number of human beings have witnessed it. Like
enough that it's probably not an imagination or
it's
a
not
shared
this
hallucination
doesn't
or
fall
anything.
into the realm of cryptozoology. This is a documented phenomenon, but it's still rare enough that we have no idea what it is. And Cixin Liu in this book, I know I'm butchering the name. I hope I'm not.
I think
Getting close.
I think that it's been a while since we talked about three body problem, but I think that was what we were told was correct.
So in this book is a deep and amazing explanation for ball lightning, which I'm guessing is theoretical, but
Wow.
is so once it drops in the book, you're like, oh,
Is this the kind of thing that translates well too? Oh, like the description of something technical like that?
well, it does because the explanation is so simple. It's so ludicrously simple. It's a bit mind
it's
blowing.
just our spirits leaving our bodies and then going up. and-
I was going to go
I will
like
say
no.
this is one in which no spoiler, like
Okay.
literally, this is like Seven Eves. Go in cold, get to the drop, and when that drop hits you, it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks.
So speaking of unexplained plasma phenomena, did you see the scholarly? Look, Norm's
I'm
here,
into
so
this.
somebody's
Are we,
got a segue
are we
here.
talking about grapes?
We're going to talk about grapes.
yeah, microwave grapes.
Yeah, I didn't know that you could microwave grapes and make plasma come out, make them catch on fire.
What did you do during your youth? This is like the description about it. Like, well, I've actually destroyed microwaves accidentally as a child doing that.
I didn't know you could.
Accidentally.
We were not allowed. The microwave
Collateral
my parents had
damage,
when I
I
was
think,
a
is the
kid.
term.
Yeah. The microwave my parents had was one from 1969 with a knob on it.
Oh.
And a clicking timer. It
Those
clicked
were
down.
beautiful. Yeah, I
It was
had one of those.
Yeah, lovely device.
Mana?
This was probably a Kenmore if I had to guess, but I think it was a wedding gift when my parents got married.
Big chrome handle.
Yeah, it had a like the lever that you push down made a really satisfying clunk.
Ka-chunk.
Yeah, and
I miss the days of ka-chunk.
we need more ka-chunks, really.
Well, then we got the juicero.
Oh god!
That's
I
too
bet
much
you it had a
That's the height of
delightful bell.
ka-chunk.
When
It did have
things
a
were-
good bell, an actual
when things
bell.
are dead.
Yeah. So we were not allowed to use the microwave oven because it was very old, even when I was a child. And Mom, we weren't even allowed to look into the microwave oven when it was on. To be perfectly frank, look, my parents were geology majors and not great at the sciences. So this grape thing though was like. I immediately wanted to go try it, and then I looked up to see if I was going to kill the microwave by not having enough stuff in there, and the answer was probably maybe. So I decided not to.
You can just put a cup of water in there and be fine.
Okay.
But it kind of dulls the effect. I mean, we should talk about this. So if you've never done this experiment, do try this at home.
Look,
Maybe.
microwaves are exceedingly inexpensive, right?
Yeah,
Like,
well,
you can
unless
buy
they're-
a $70 microwave.
Unless they're attached to the wall.
Yeah, built-ins are not a good idea.
Yeah, don't do it in a built-in.
Actually, the paper that came out about this, there's this great appendix that lists all the microwaves they destroyed doing the research on it.
Oh, nice.
So there's a new paper out because you can put a grape in, and the ideal way to put the grape in the microwave is you have it, but you leave a little skin attaching the two halves of the grape. And then you just fire it up, and you'll see slowly, and usually about 15 to 20 seconds, you'll see a plasma arc from one half of the grape to the other side.
Yeah. And so
And then you'll get some smoky grape smell, which isn't bad.
Smoky grape smell.
And then
yeah.
you'll
I
try
like
to
a
eat the
smoky
grape,
grape.
and I'll tell you that's a mistake.
is
It's
my
not
hard
good.
reaction not good with
Yeah,
grapes? Okay.
no.
Good to know. So the interesting. So I had a real arc with this yesterday because I went from not knowing that
An
this
arc,
was a.
yeah.
I went from not knowing that this was a
dad jokes.
phenomenon.
It's all dad. What?
Oh,
yeah.
it's all dad. Well, it's always all dads.
It is
now,
always
but
all dads
Norm
now.
hasn't had time to hone his
No,
joking
he hasn't had
abilities
time
yet.
to get the deep pun gene installed.
He still thinks being a dad is about segues, and it's not about puns. That's the problem.
You know, I have a theory about why dad jokes happen. This is as an aside.
I'd love to
here.
hear it because the fact that that's what goes through my comedy scroll now is really kicking my ass.
The problem is when you have a 3 to 7 or 8 year old, you have somebody who is your perfect audience. They laugh at anything that is the slightest bit funny.
Well, but they also really love learning about how mutable language is.
Yes.
Playing, you're right, and I'm interrupting you to tell you
No, that's what we do here.
that playing Who's on First by Abbott and Costello for my boys when they were about 8 years old was one of the most enjoyable parenting moments of my life, because watching their hungry 8-year-old brains receive the greatest comedy routine ever written and the depths of its That is an objective fact, Will.
I'm silently. Silence does not indicate compliance.
At any rate, watching them take it in and get that they get it and enjoy the humor of the language play, so much fun. So I totally see where you're going with this.
Yeah, like you have a perfect audience. They laugh at everything, and as a result, your sense of what is truly funny and what is not truly funny is it's a dull knife. It goes from being very sharp and rapier like when you're in your mid 30s to
it's
less
gone too
selective.
far when you go to your wife and you're like, I think I should try stand up.
Oh no. Well, you did that. How did that work out?
What's that? Trying stand
You
up?
tried stand up.
Yeah, I tried stand up about the kids.
Well, so that's a whole different thing.
Yes. Look, tried stand-up is a specific phrase, and I don't think it's an accurate phrase. Because way back when, on the first live airing of his podcast, Chris Hardwick... Oh, is there a thing?
We're getting something
There
somewhere.
we go. Chris Hardwick gave me time on stage at Largo to try out 10 or 15 minutes of material that I'd written.
So you tried it at like one of the great clubs in
Yes.
America.
Yes, and...
Okay.
Yes, but...
No, it's yes and.
Okay. Largo
Actually.
is one of the great places to see comedy or music in the world, and it's an amazing place. And people like Patton Oswalt and Amy Mann and Tig Notaro and that comedy troupe in LA, along with Thrilling Adventure Hour and folks like Will Wheaton and our friends, it is a deeply wonderful place to go perform. But that's not... I want to tell you, I don't think that that's stand-up, because that's a deeply friendly, loving crowd. Stand-up is going up and doing 15 minutes at Cobb's, where it's an aggressive stand-up audience. And people who've gone through that meat grinder, I have nothing but all respect for them. So when I say I've tried stand-up, I told I wrote jokes that I told in a friendly atmosphere, and they went over really well, and that was great. But I don't like, to the stand-up comedians out there and my friends who do it, I recognize that I have just glimpsed a little peak from the mountaintop.
The crowd at the Chuckle Hut down at the Holiday Inn at Exit 27 is not quite as friendly on a Tuesday night.
I actually tried this. I tried doing open mics about more than a decade ago. And I remember my first one was at the Brainwash Cafe down here in Soma, which is a part laundromat, part cafe.
It's always been a hipster mecca for 30 years.
Yeah, totally. And so I remember my first set, and I had written political humor, so that was going to go over well. And then I get off stage, and the MC is like, "That was an incredible set. I wish he told some jokes."
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh, this is great."
Learning experience.
A few years ago for Sketchfest, I had, Janet will occasionally on Sketchfest just text me and be like, "Hey, there's this thing. Do you want to participate in this?" And I'll be like, "Yes." And on this particular year, I said yes, and then forgot about it until the night.
Oh, no.
And then Janet texted me, and I was having dinner with my family, and she was like, "Hey, you're supposed to go on stage at Cobb's in 30 minutes, and yet you're not there. What is up?" And I was like, "Oh, I'll be there." And so I
that's the worst.
raced to Cobb's, parked, got out, ran on stage, and experienced for the first time a comedy club audience, which is a radically different audience than I had ever faced before. And that was totally intense. I did about 12 minutes.
Oh, God.
And I got a couple of laughs, and I also told a couple of real stinkers. I came off stage, and Margaret Cho was standing there, and she was like, "That was all right." She was being encouraging. She was being very sweet and encouraging to
not too
this
bad, actually.
ridiculous newbie.
I mean, you have to imagine everybody, like when you watch Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, or I can't remember the name of the documentary on HBO with Jerry Seinfeld and Chris Rock and
The Ricky Gervais interview.
Gervais, yeah. They always talk. The ones that they talk about are the ones that they bombed, and that has to be like the shared. Like, that has to be a shared thing for comics.
No, to be sure, to be able to get. To be able to work your material, again, through that meat grinder, I think of it as a meat grinder, against unfriendly audiences. And until you've really bombed and suffered and taken that on and then gone through that to me is a gauntlet of fire. And it's one of the reasons I think comedians often make the best actors.
Speaking of fire, let's talk about grapes again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Great
segue.
fire.
Yeah.
It's a subset of Greek fire. It's much
Greek fire
less.
is not real, Adam. I saw a TV show about this.
Someday
once.
I am doing a show about Greek fire. I've been tweeting about how many times you have to slap a chicken to cook it.
I've been watching that thread, and I was like, I initially saw that request come through, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a funny tweet for somebody to put. And then you took it seriously, and I was like, oh no, he's actually going to try this somehow.
Well, so I was thinking about the guys who I was
We
thinking
should
about
set this up. Somebody tweeted at you.
Okay, and I'm not sure it's a. Okay, somebody tweeted at me, "Hey, my daughter wanted to know if you can add energy by hitting something. Can you cook a chicken by smacking it hard enough?
I mean, you could.
Can you bring enough energy through motion and contact?
That's kind of how pressure cookers work, right? I mean, pressure cookers work in two ways.
They hold on to the energy,
You allow more energy transfer because it's a higher pressure,
right?
But part of that is also probably the larger effect there is that the steam actually gets to a higher temperature inside the pressure vessel than it can just at sea level.
But so let me say that I'm not positive that question was a genuinely honest question, because at the very same time, Kyle Hill released a video about slapping a chicken to cook it. And then I found out that it was this thread on Reddit. So
it's
part
a
of me
thing.
thinks that someone may have, and look, it could totally be honest. If that is your daughter that asked, she is a smart kid, and I think it's a great question.
She may have also seen the thread on Reddit and was like, hey, is this a real thing? Let's ask somebody who would know.
If your
The
daughter
chicken slapper
is
on Reddit.
perusing threads on Reddit, you have bigger problems to
Daughters
deal
can
with.
be all ages, Adam. Like they aren't all 5. She could be 30. Dad, do you know about this?
You wanted to talk about grape fire, though.
Oh, grapes. Yeah. So for the longest time, we thought the reason that arc happens is because the microwaves are essentially getting caught inside the grape, and they're sort of bouncing back and forth and like hitting the electrolytes, and that's actually causing superheating, which causes plasma to form, and then you get the arc to happen.
So it's a microwave trap, the grape.
Exactly. And then there was a new paper that came out, and then Derek Muller of Veritasium put out a video, in association to like this paper coming out that explained that like part of what is happening, or what we think is happening now, is that the microwave is actually getting trapped in the spaces between the grapes.
What?
And is sort of amplifying back and forth and sort of heating up the grape as a whole to the superheated level. And then the arc happens.
So when we use this to
and
get
then
to
the
Mars, do we
videos-
call it a Napa engine?
And then you probably went on a deep dive on this.
I went in. This is about as far as I got, to be honest. So my question is, does the fact that they're half grapes matter? Could you just put 2 grapes side by side?
You can totally put 2 grapes side by side and make it work.
And the same thing will happen. It'll just be a much more phenomenal explosion.
You just
I bet.
need some way for the skin to be either sort of broken through or scored, typically, to get like a good, consistent, predictable arc.
Okay.
Because otherwise the skin can interfere with the arcing. I say this not from research, but from experience of putting grapes in microwaves.
So then the last thing.
Do you use graphite stages?
There's a microwave oven over in the tested office, isn't there?
There sure
Maybe
is.
after this we should truck over there and see. The other question I have is, will any similarly sized object that is a liquid interior, so like, could you get like rob quail eggs and put them in there?
Oh, or like just poke through a little bit of the shell of 2 quail
A
eggs.
needle poke?
Or
I've
even
tried
better,
other-
use vinegar to dissolve the calcium, the outer part of 2 quail eggs, so they're much more like grapes.
Yeah.
I've tried a lot of other fruit. Like I thought oranges would work as a child, and so I put like orange, quarters in there next to each other, and nothing really happened.
It has to be round, probably.
I wonder if the geometry really makes a difference.
Well, I mean, if you think about like anyway, baffles. This is a fascinating talk.
I finished Russian Doll. We talked about it last week, and I almost want to watch the whole thing again. You haven't finished it.
I watched 4
finished
episodes
it.
back
You
to back,
finished it.
And then if we talk about this without Norm here,
No. We got to
to
talk about it with Norm. We got to do a spoiler cast about it because it's a phenomenally great show, and I love how much deeper you're about to see. That it's
I'm
going
about
to
to
go
go through the
deeper
rabbit
than you.
hole?
It's
Okay.
going to go deeper and different than you think.
So I wonder, part of the reason I think I enjoyed it so much is that it just showed up on Netflix, and I didn't get any of the like hype or any of the train. And it was like, hey, maybe you'll like this. And I was like, okay. And I was like, hey, Natasha Lyonne, I like her.
Right.
And then I just went into it, and then I'm hooked, 20 minutes in. And it's that sort of Netflix model pushing stuff out where
Yeah.
I just have none of this pre-hype knowledge, anything else.
I love this show. It makes me so excited about science fiction and narrative, and I love how, like I was saying to this last week on the podcast, the rules are weird and inscrutable, but they feel consistent.
Well, that's the important thing. Like if you imagine, not to be reductive, but look at Groundhog Day. If the rules in Groundhog Day aren't really, really straightforward and relatively easy to understand, I mean really consistent rather, and easy to understand, even if they're not necessarily straightforward, the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah.
Like you have to be consistent with science fiction.
Commensurate with this, as a slight tangent, have you seen the College Humor Groundhog Day sketch?
No.
It's worth seeing.
Does it have Stephen Tobolowsky in it? Because I'm in.
No,
so.
it doesn't. But it's got
Had
this
to
very
have Nemo
funny
knows
bit.
that.
One guy walks into his office and he's like, "Don't drop your phone, Cal. Hey, how's it going?" Right? And he's doing that whole Groundhog Day thing. And he gets into the back, and this other coworker confronts him and goes, "Dude, are you having a Groundhog Day?" And then they talk about it from this meta perspective, and the degree to which he's like, the unknowing guy is asking questions about it, and the depths that they get into are really, really funny.
This is like the Stephen Hawking time traveler party that he had, where he published the existence of the party after the actual event happened.
They've been doing that at MIT for years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good bit.
I really dig that.
Yeah.
Before we continue with this week's episode, I want to let you know that Still Entitled this week is also made possible by LinkedIn. The right hire can make a huge impact on your business. That's why it's so important to find the right person for the gig. We work with some great people here at Tested, and it's those people that make working here so much fun. But where do you find that individual? You could post a job on a job board and hope that person will find your job, but why leave it up to chance? Instead of posting on job boards, post your job on a place where people go every day to make connections, grow in their career, and discover job opportunities. That's LinkedIn. Most LinkedIn members haven't recently visited the top job boards, but 9 out of 10 members are open to new opportunities. And with 70% of the US workforce on LinkedIn, it's the best way to get your job opportunity in front of more of those right people. People who are qualified for your role and ready for something new. It's the best way to find that person who will help grow your business, and why a new hire is made every 10 seconds on LinkedIn. Hurry up to linkedin.com/untitled and get $50 off your first job post. Again, that's linkedin.com/untitled to get $50 off your first job post. linkedin.com/untitled. Terms and conditions apply. Now back to the show.
The Groundhog Day thing, we screened that last month for my science series at the Alamo Draft
Oh,
House.
wow.
And I was thinking, like, oh, how much science is it? Like, after like the time travel and all of that, there is a crazy amount of accurate science in the movie.
How so? How so?
Like, the groundhog happens to be one of the most studied animals in all of biology. There's been a study running since the late 60s about its behavior, about emerging in Colorado. It's really about its social effects. But because of it, it's become one of the bellwethers of understanding climate change effects over times. And it's just like some guy was like, I'm going to start studying this this yellow-bellied marmot in Colorado and just doing a continuous study on it. And it has been running since like 1962.
Holy cow.
Wait, marmots are groundhogs?
Marmots are groundhogs. Actually, so you hear the word woodchuck.
Oh, the huge manatee.
You hear the word woodchuck, which is also a term for a groundhog. Actually, the more accurate term, because it has indigenous roots. That term woodchuck actually comes from native language.
Kishore, you are blowing
this
mind.
This is like, I was initially thinking, like, I'm going to watch some interviews with Harold Ramis. He's going to talk about his Buddhist philosophy that he put in that movie. And like, I'm going to calculate how much time Bill Murray was stuck in a loop. Nope. So much more in that movie.
I always assumed that a marmot was like a small weasel because of the Big Lebowski, without ever knowing what a marmot actually is. Wow. Okay.
That's awesome. And you're doing Jurassic Park next month.
Jurassic Park next month. We just did Gravity and was basically just made us mad watching that movie again. It's like, it's so beautiful. And
It's so beautiful, and I love the narrative. Just the science is...
I get to say, there's one trailer that came up that blew me away. I didn't know there's a new Apollo 11 documentary coming out this summer.
I didn't know that either.
It's footage that was originally shot, and now they're showing it in 70 mil
wow.
over the summer. I was crying during the trailer.
Oh my gosh.
It was just phenomenal. I was like, "What? Where did this come from?" And obviously, they're doing because of the 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
But
all space, all the time. 2019.
Like you can see, like the footage is so good that you can see as the Saturn is going up, you can see that sort of halo ring form around the central rocket as it's sort of going through the atmosphere.
That's pretty cool. Do you know what the name of the documentary is?
It's called Apollo 11. It's like
How
a
did they
little
come
on
up
the
with that?
nose, guys, but okay.
We're going to put this up today.
I have no idea.
That's a good question.
It's
I'm
a
not
normal
sure.
question.
I'm having dinner tonight with an online friend, somebody I have not met IRL.
Hold on, I have some advice for you. So make sure you tell someone where you're going.
Make up an out, have them call you.
Yeah.
No,
have
this
somebody,
is Matt Parker from Number File.
He's the best.
I love him, and yeah. So my wife was like, "You get to see one of your math friends tonight," because she's been making fun of me. I'll sit there with headphones on, watching Number File, and then deep dives into mathematics, and literally about every 10 minutes, I'll go, "Oh," as some geometric thing is revealed of its symmetry to the pi and Fibonacci, and she's like, "You guys can get all emotional about math together."
He's incredible. The video he did where he basically used a massive set of dominoes and set them up to perform calculations.
To make a computer.
To make a computer.
I don't want to spoil it, but the thing from that book that we were talking about, in the past at some point.
Yes, absolutely.
You guys know what I'm talking about.
So Matt Parker's in town, and we're just going to get together and have some dinner and talk about stuff, which I'm super excited about
That's
to
awesome.
meet him in person. What else is there to go over?
So something weird happened last week. Nintendo, makers of video games, out of the blue released a Tetris game that you play against 98 other people.
I've been reading about this.
I started playing it last night, and then I went and watched some people on Twitch play who are really good at Tetris and have kind of started breaking. So
to be clear, this isn't just 99 people playing Tetris at the same time. There are aspects that make it a battle royale,
it
right?
is a battle royale in the way that PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds or Fortnite or any of the other games that you may or may not be aware of, or the Japanese movie,
and it seemed
or
to have been
whatever.
released as like an afterthought, right? Without a lot of fanfare.
Nintendo, like it looks like it plays almost like a prototype, right? Like it's like a really clean, nice prototype. There's not any tutorial that explains how the mechanics work. And the way it works is you kind of want to like manage aggro with all the other players, because when you
can see all of your other opponents on your central screen.
There's 47, 48 on each side, 49 on each side of you, and then one in the middle.
And then as you complete rows, you can send them to other players.
You said the word aggro in the context of Tetris.
No. This is the thing is, as you complete rows, you can take that row and send it to a specific player.
Well, and you can send it to a specific player, or you can send it to people in general. And the interesting thing is, like, if you can get a bunch of people to be attacking you, then you can send each of your rows out to all of the other people that are attacking you. So you can turn like one finished row into 10 or 12 if you have 10 or 12 people attacking you.
Oh.
It ends up being like, it is fiendishly complicated.
It's like a mental frame that's really hard to hold.
Well, but the thing that's interesting about it is the thing about Tetris that's always been interesting is that ability, like once you get in the rhythm of Tetris, you kind of don't have to think about the playing Tetris, and you can think about what the next pieces in the line are, what you have in your hold slot and all that.
Right.
And the thing is, it turns out that can expand even further. So when you get in the groove, you can kind of pay attention to what's going on in the overall. Like you're not going to look at what's going on in, like. Just let me take a step back.
You're getting excited, Will.
I know. The squares, I've been thinking about it since I played it last night. The squares are each like a little mini representation of the other player's board. So you can see the other 98 players' boards pretty much all the time, just little tiny thumbnails of them, and it ends up being like this really mentally stimulating, like you doing the Tetris part, which is hard and gets going really really fast by the end, but also managing whether you're attacking people to like knock. There's this whole other badge thing we haven't even talked about. Doesn't matter, but yeah, it ends up being really really complicated.
So the game
and
must
interesting.
have crazy phases because early when there's so many players, it must have like a rhythm to it.
Apparently,
And
there
then-
are some games you join where you die almost immediately.
It's just normal Tetris in the beginning. Like you're just playing normal kind of slow Tetris, making lines. The overall strategy is the meta for the overall strategy is a little bit different because it seems like instead of trying to build Tetrises and getting points, you're just trying to knock other people out, which generates more kind of a bigger multiplier for you for the number of lines
But then
you
when
produce.
you get down to like that final 10, final 5, you're playing like 3D chess now.
It's frenetic at a level that I've never experienced with Tetris before.
I have. Sounds really fun.
It's only out on the Switch. I'll bring the Switch in next time I come over. It is like it's intoxicating in the way that it stimulates your brain to do like 6 different things at one time.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's what I've been doing.
All
the
right,
last 2
so
days.
take home message is fire up your grapes.
Yep.
Get out that
Go-
switch.
do it
Read Ball Lightning.
Read
do it
Ball
in the
Lightning.
microwave oven.
Watch Russian Doll.
Yeah. Well, you had a podcast you wanted to plug that you've been listening to. You said.
Oh, I just listened to the most recent episode of The Dropout about Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos.
Ooh.
Which is like, I don't curse a lot on this podcast on purpose, but the amount of fuckery that went on at Theranos and still goes on, because as far as I can tell, Holmes has still maintaining that she was innocent of any fraud, and it is impossible to read into Theranos and conclude that that is remotely possible.
So Theranos, so in case people don't know, is a startup that claimed to develop a blood test that would do
200 assays on a pair of drops of blood.
Yeah, versus taking multiple vials for
Yes.
a
Which has
traditional.
been like a sort of holy grail for a lot of research groups for a long time. The sort of like single chip that was going to do a bunch of tests.
And Elizabeth Holmes was the world's youngest self-made billionaire, female billionaire, and she put all these amazing people on the board, all these actually weird people like Henry Kissinger and George Shultz and other Silicon Valley executives.
Renowned blood expert Henry Kissinger.
And yeah, I know. And it turned out to be an absolute Ponzi scheme, a complete fraud. They never had the technology working. They were using outside machines to do all their testing, even when they were in Walgreens all over California. And the podcast is riveting because they have recordings of actual depositions from lawsuits. They're interviewing lots of the folks that were the whistleblowers and stuff. And it's super intense to realize that this company went on for like 11 years.
Wow, really?
Oh, yeah.
I
No.
didn't know that.
Oh,
It only became famous in the last few because of like the market cap and like her doing interviews and stuff. But yeah,
like 3 years in, they had a chief scientist commit suicide because he was so stressed out about. I mean, it's
I was going to say it's nice that somebody's finally making a true crime podcast where nobody dies at the end.
Nope.
But never
The-
mind.
this is a harder one. I read the book Bad Blood, which
Yeah.
is like sort of
which is sort of the North Star of this podcast.
and
Carry
what's
you, John.
The hard part about this entire story, like, because like we live in a world where there's a ton of malfeasance, is that we'll never understand what the malfeasance, like the impacts of it, because all these people took this test, and it's hard to understand the decisions they make based off of a bad test.
Right. They
Right.
had
Oh, yeah.
their blood tested, and they made decisions based on the results, which were rendered totally inaccurate by the FDA. These can't trust these.
And so we don't know the ripple effects of all of those decisions
They've been
that were
doing- I
made
didn't-
by bad information.
So I thought that the machine was relatively experimental and they were just trying to get FDA approval and stuff. I didn't realize
it
that
was in Walgreens.
Oh, it was in Walgreens at the same time as they were saying in national press, this machine is being used on medevac helicopters. It's being used in the battlefield. It's being used in operating rooms. None of that was true. Wow. None of that was remotely true at the moment Elizabeth Holmes was saying it to the press.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the podcast is called Bad Blood?
The podcast is called The Dropout.
To drop out.
And so it has this one. Tell me if this is something you experience about podcasts, because they all use inexpensive music.
Jingle Punks.
What's
Jingle Punks, SoundCloud.
Right.
There's a bunch of places you get royalty
And
free
we
music.
use it on tested videos too. But one thing about the music that they choose for this podcast is that it'll end up being I'm listening in my car, and I drive my Land Cruiser. It's a noisy car. But like the music's going on in the background, and the music is just some little thrum of a kind of a rhythmic beat going on. But in a noisy car, it's a nightmare because what it sounds like is every now and then it'll sound like something on my car is rattling because I hear a tink, 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 or I'll hear a and I'll be like, "Is my phone ringing? Is my phone ringing?" No, it's the sound creep of this dumb open source music.
I blame Jad from Radiolab. Because like I feel like he's the one that invented like the random sounds just emerging during podcasts.
It's driving me crazy.
The one that makes me, I thought you were going to go a different direction. Is the thing that makes me crazy about everybody using the same 3 royalty-free music libraries is that you'll be watching Top Chef and then there's a song, I can't remember, there used to be a song that Joey used all the time in our videos that is literally the song that they played on Top Chef, like when the people are leaving their stations to go to the stock room and grab stuff.
Yeah.
Be like, man, that's our song. Come on, buy exclusive rights, guys. Anyway, yeah, that music thing popping up happens to me all the time because I sit with headphones on in my office,
right?
And I hear what sounds like a phone ringing, or it makes it
makes me crazy.
There has to be a German word for it. That's all I know.
I will say that I am in the middle of signing all the 6,500 book plates for my book.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah, I've done a quarter of them now.
What's your rate? You know, we've talked about.
Sorry, I have my cheat sheet around here somewhere. I'm able to sign 100 in less than 4 minutes.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. So that breaks down to about about 4+ hours to do 6,500 if I didn't ever stop. But of course, 100 uses up about a Sharpie.
Yeah.
150 uses up about a Sharpie. So I'm just slowly coming in here every few days and signing a few hundred and putting them over, and I have to buy some more Sharpies now. That's where I'm at.
I'm totally calculating the amount of ink in a Sharpie now based off of this discussion.
It's good to know. I think that'll do it for us today.
I think so.
Okay, so
thank you, Kishore, for joining us.
It's a pleasure,
Absolutely.
Kishore. We'll be back next week. I'm sure there's great stuff untested this week. You should probably go to the site and look at it. Norm will yell at me if I don't say that, probably.
There's a really good video on the prop store doing their first toy auction on like old Star Wars collectibles.
Oh, awesome.
Great video.
Oh, wait, before we go, I just for the podcast. hold on.
Yeah. You have headphones on. Okay, he took the headphones off. That's good. I thought he was going to go get the Oscar.
Sorry. So, we get weird stuff untested.
Yeah.
And this came in the mail the other day. We're not going to show this to camera, but I want each of you to just take a look at Wookiee Erotica. I posted a picture
You
of
just
this
said
on
you were going to show it to
Tested.
camera.
Wookiee Erotica.
goodness.
No. Open it up.
Is this-
Just look inside. Just flip through and enjoy
my
the
goodness.
total bizarro world of
This is-
parody
this
Star
is-
Wars softcore pornography.
This is like National Geographic from a galaxy far,
They
far
even
away.
have like a New Yorker type cartoon in here.
No,
this
it's-
is weird.
It's
Wow.
it's abidingly weird.
Wookiee Erotica.
Yeah. I just
They
thought
have-
you guys.
they have-
I wanted you guys to see that before we
This
wrap.
ad on the back is pretty good. Some things are worth holding on to, and it's a Wampa arm holding onto a bottle of vodka. Smurhoff. This is shockingly well thought out.
Yeah, I don't. It's really
do you know
well
who
made.
made this?
I don't.
Oh,
I
my
don't.
goodness.
I haven't done any research into who put
Okay.
together this amazing thing. It is a Star Wars parody magazine.
Of like 70s softcore porn.
It's really kind of
the
bizarre.
kind of porn you'd find in the woods of Endor. See you guys next week.
Bye, guys.